Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Metaworld News. This is the program where we bring you information about social virtual worlds, but also a little bit about virtual reality interfacing, haptic technology, and stuff like that, all mixed up as in one, really. Today we're bringing you the news headlines for November the 3rd, or rather the week ending November the 3rd, which, for those of you who haven't figured it out already, included a period called Halloween, which is really best forgotten. Um, Wish we could say the same for in the UK here, because on Tuesday it'll be November the 5th, and that will probably be even noisier. Although, actually, to be honest, most of them happened yesterday. They're called bonfire nights, or fireworks day or night, or Guy Fawkes night. And we were celebrating the failure of Guy Fawkes to blow up Parliament some hundreds of years ago. Um, we don't celebrate his success in doing so,
Mhm.
although some people are kind of wishing. Never mind, never mind, never mind. Bye bye, Boris. Right. And of course, we're heading into an election here, which is why I said bye bye,
Oh,
Boris. I'm really
right.
talking ahead. Yes, yes, we've definitely got our election on December the 12th, the first time Britain's ever decided to vote so near the holiday season. But
Hmm.
necessity called.
I guess.
So everything, Parliament's been dissolved and for real this time, and they're all out on the hustings trying to make us vote for them. So far, Boris has been to a hospital, and another hospital, and another hospital, been booed out of all of them. Nigel Farage, who was the person behind the UK Independence Party and then moved to be the chairman of the Brexit Party, has now decided he's not actually going to stand. He's just going to support anybody who wants to.
Mm, mm.
I think Brexit has maybe had its day. Oh, yes, and a Tory MP. Another Conservative, not Boris himself, was talking about policy and slipped up a bit because he said he thinks people on benefits should be put down,
Oh.
which is an expression that tends to equate with vets
Mm-hmm. An
putting
animal.
animals out
Put an
there
animal down.
out of their misery. Anyway, none of that has to do with the virtual world. Thank goodness, actually. I can you imagine how messed up the metaverse would be if UK politicians, well, any politicians actually decided to run their campaigns therein. It could be argued that they run them on Facebook and Twitter, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, who cares? Who knows? Well, plenty of us care, but I don't want to know. Right, okay, so my headlines, right, come from my feed, and my name is Mal Burns, M-A-L, one word, B-U-R-N-S, another word. But on Twitter, you've got to squash me a little bit, and believe me, that's getting harder and harder as the years go by to do. Um, the waistband gets bigger and bigger. But squash me if you can. Twitter.com/Malburns, all one word, Malburns. And also Twitter.com/Metaworld News. Again, squashed together the name of this program with slightly more specific social virtual worlds news, certainly not as packed full of stuff as the main feed. And I'm going to be reading out some of my headlines for the week from that very feed. And I'm joined here by James Atloud, who's multitasking on our camera systems. And one of the cameras he's actually got active is a screen share from me, so that I will be able to show you the things I'm rabbiting on about while I'm rabbiting on about them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Rabbitine.
so,
All right.
yes, rabbiting. Yes, well, yes, I said about that really. Um, okay, let me go. Let me go. Now the audience links you'll be able to find the links at twitter.com/Malburn. So I will read them out if they're simple enough to read out. Um, the first lot I'm going to do are from the beginning part of the week, but in reverse order. Which I don't want to confuse you, but basically, it's the way I've loaded. Loaded as many tabs as I can before I have to refresh. So we're sort of at Wednesday or Thursday working backwards, and then when we get back to Monday, we'll then come forward again to Thursday, Friday. So yeah, okay, never mind. You get the idea. Let's start. Let's start. My first thing goes to highfidelity.com. HIGHFIDELIT Y. .com. Another in the series of one or 2 weeks sometimes sort of virtual workshop sort of posts they're bringing. This one, how the virtual workroom will be the biggest disruption to the workforce in decades. These are all sort of actually fairly neutral discussions, although that indirectly they, the little sidebar promotes their virtual workplace, um, which is basically, pardon me, slightly different from the social virtual platform that iFidelity was. It's now focused on the workplace, basically. And oh, sorry, I know what I did last time. I clicked on somewhere else. Okay, so basically, it's an editorial. It's just accredited to high fidelity. I have no idea who actually wrote it. It could be Philip, or it could be one of the other admins over there. So moving on, you'll find that at www.highfidelity.com. Oh yes, and now it's happened again. Right, there's their advert. Can't miss that one. Yeah, and the system they got for virtual workplaces here is advertisers being in private beta, and if you're on the site, you can actually request early access to sort of try it out, and then they've got the open source VR, which is more or less more or less the same thing as the main high fidelity platform. Where you can create your own spaces, etc., etc. Right. Okay. So moving away from that, um, next link is a site called Eureka Alert. That's EUREKALERT.org. And I can't easily scroll to the headline on this, which is a bit odd. It's to do with our positioning. It was a news release back 29th of October. That was last month, but of course it was only a couple of days ago. Intuitive in virtuality, and an international research team had developed a bimodal electronic skin. Yeah. Now, I mean, back in the early days of VR, I had a feeling that, well, before VR actually happened, I thought a lot of the sort of futurists, but, wearing lycra bodysuits with sort of nodes on them that, could simulate our movement in virtual reality. And so they do exist. Lots of popular dance animations in Second Life here in OpenSim, and indeed in Sciencebase, are actually done with these motion capture bodysuits, to record dance animations and things like that. In fact, Science Space, who are actually a mesh, platform these days, the actual company Science Space was originally simply a maker of animation software for Second Life. So back in the day, as it were. Anyway, you can go here and read a little bit more about this electronic skin, basically. I'm not going to quote anything from the article. It gets all a bit technical, and it also includes um, yeah, I can't even pronounce the Helmholtz, the Helmholtz Zentrum Dresden Rossendorf. I can actually. It does say in brackets HZDR, which presumably means they call it HZDR from there. But you get the idea. But this could be of interest to you if you're interested in what you got there. The picture is showing an international research team has developed an electronic sensor which can process touchless as well as tactile signals. The electronic skin could provide better interface between humans and machines. So good stuff there. When it's written in layman's language, I'll be even more interested. Right, moving on to the next one. That, by the way, again is eurekaalert.org. If in doubt, do check out twitter.com/malbones, where you'll find a link you can actually click on, and you don't need to worry about what it says. Okay, this one's at Yahoo Finance, which is finance.yahoo.com. I'm not going to spell that for you. I think most of you know what it is. Um, Virtual reality, augmented reality global summit spotlights technology that empowers the aging population. Yes. Um, like to hear about things like that, of course. Again, quite so technical. The association VR ARA, Vancouver, British. I think they're yeah, yeah. I think the press release at least came from Vancouver in Canada. Um, there was a global summit held on November 1st and 2nd, which of course was Friday and yesterday. And they're looking at the way the technology, VR and AR can move and how helpful it is to the older population. They actually said, interestingly, it's not just what it can do for the older population, but they say here the older population is becoming increasingly interested in technology. 13% of people over 50 are now using virtual reality. And that might not sound huge, but when you consider 13% of people over 50, that's quite a lot of people. Not a huge number yet, but it's a 4% increase over last year and indicates fast growing lane of opportunities. So I don't know whether the percentage of people over 50 they've sampled to get that information, whether it's just in Canada or elsewhere. It very much sounds like it's global figures. So anyway, go figure. Most of you will know what that's all about. The reason to read it is if you really want anything specifics about what they're doing. Right, moving on. So that was at finance.yahoo.com and it was dated October 29th. Right. Familiar grounds here. We're at a site called VR Scouts. That's vrscout.com. In other words, VRSCOUT.com. And virtual reality simulation puts you in the front line of the Hong Kong protests. This is nothing special, except that it is clearly very topical. They have come up with a way for you to check out what's happening in Hong Kong, basically, and do so using VR. Now, I'm not entirely um, obviously 360. Oh, here we are, right. A lot of 360 videos been coming from there. Here we are, Liberate Hong Kong. It's a sort of Hong Kong game in VR. You can play in HTC Vive, or I think you can simply play there on the desktop. And you experience the crisis the frontline protesters might have been through, getting arrested, hit by a bullet, steering clear of tear gas canisters. So, I mean, it sounds like a bit of a, definite sort of, well, not a shoot 'em up game, but avoid the gas canisters sort of game. Um, Along with participating in anti-government demonstrations, players also have the opportunity to learn about the actual protests. Um, Interesting. Obviously, if you're abroad and not actually in Hong Kong, this is probably a very good way of finding out what's going on. It is very much pro the protests, as it were. So if you're actually in Hong Kong, I mean, it's quite possible people won't be able to actually get hold of it because although it's entertainment, it does clearly take sides here. So anyway, you can read out more about that at vrscout.com. Right, moving on, or backwards, actually. For once, we have hypergrid business. Well, you would if I could scroll that far. At least it's not a white page this week, which hypergrid business very often is. The virtual reality startup to help train United States Air Force. Um, I read this sort of thing, and I think, how can this be important? Hypergrid business for one thing. Alex Koloff reporting. But I mean, if there's one, a very good friend of ours in Second Life. who's been very prominent in Second Life for a very long time since it began. Really, is an airline pilot. And he'll be the first to vouch for the fact that long before back in the 90s and earlier, Air Force and pilots and things were trained using simulator software. They didn't. They still had to do a few, real wood wreckage, so to speak. But it's an ideal sort of training sort of thing. So, what it should be about the state of affairs now that the VR startup is coming along to help train the US Air Force, I would suspect they've already got powerful simulators of their own, which are far more powerful than anything we at public already have access to. So I don't know. Anyway, this platform is known as Codex. Codex, and it allows instructors creative freedom without previous software programming experience. VR training had a goal of saving time and money for the Air Force versus the traditional textbooks method. And now we see it looks more like a soldier in an Air Force uniform, but never mind. They're pointing a thing at a screen, and I can't see they're getting much good resolution on a projected screen, which seems to be what it is. So I don't know. I don't really know about that, but anyway, they're doing what they're doing. So we will move on from that. Right. Now we're on vrfocus.com, vrfocus.com. A surgical training platform, Fundamental VR. We've discussed them before. They closed a 4.3 million UK pound, by the way, investment round this week. The round was supported by the Mayo Clinic, amongst others. The Mayo Clinic are
I've lost Mal's audio. I think maybe his router has gone down. And so I can hang here for a minute since the grid's not on his home network. We can stay here. I suspect he'll probably disappear from here shortly, although maybe not. A slightly different setup. And I don't know if Mal mentioned it, but we're here at the Open Simulator Community Conference grid, and uh, sitting on a lovely couch. There he goes. All right, we'll see if he comes back. I'll just look at the empty spot where he's sitting. Maybe I should play some lovely music. It's quite a way to do a show, I must say. I wish I had more to say. Silly avatar. Hmm. I'm just gonna leave the recording running, and I'm gonna go on mute for a minute.
All right, one, two. Can I be heard?
I hear you, Mal. We hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Right, so well, I was still trying to log back in. It was indeed my modem, cable modem, seemed to have. It was showing as okay, but my router was not receiving a signal from it, and the only way to do that is to reboot the modem, even though the. I don't know. Really, plus it annoys me. Too many connections. Anyway, I am back, and I guess people are hearing me,
Yep.
and we will start in 1 second from where we left off. The only thing I do need to do in the meantime is locate the place I was at. And no, it's not Avocon, darn it.
In world.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm in Canada. I've just got to either get a TP off you
Hmm.
or find what was it, CC
Yeah, it's in the Discord
open.
chat.
Yeah, it's not that. It's just a hassle of having to do this while I'm live on air.
Right.
Right, 8002, is that right? I hope it is. Find, yep, there we are. And I'm teleporting in.
Okay.
And
I see
once
you.
I'm in, you can no doubt from there, you can probably get me to wherever we are. Where are we?
I sent you a TP.
Oh, yes, there you are. Right. Yeah, teleports. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and whooshy, 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 here we are, and I am landed. So let's hope all remains well. I'm just going to plonk a mouse over the position where I want to sit, and then I've got a script alert. Isn't that wonderful? Right, and I just need to adjust my view so that I'm not looking down at myself or something like that. Right, okay, so folks, we are back again.
Lip flap, Mal.
Oh gosh, right, lift that. You see, you can't just take a quick break here. You've got to set up everything all over again. But thank goodness we've got something that resembles a continuous show instead of two parts, which is even more awkward because you never know kind of where you're starting. Okay, when I left you, apologies for that. We were looking at an article by Peter Graham on VRFocus.com about surgical training platform Fundamental VR. They've closed a 4.3 million British pound investment round, and they're based over here in the UK. We've covered them before, actually. The fact that they've managing to raise all this investment would suggest that they're onto a good thing, and I'm not really surprised. Surgeons and all the medical uses of VR, in fact, are a major part of things, really. Okay, moving on from that one. Right, we are now at a site called Spectrum, IEEE.org. So it's SPECTRUM dot IEEE dot org. And this is quite interesting. Despite the thing it says, video games, I mean, this would apply to any really virtual world that people are immersed in. About the way future games or virtual worlds could react to players or users, maybe I should say, emotions. Um, they're looking at everything here from training developers, esports, and other immersive experiences. Um, Let me see if I can find a suitable paragraph to read out to you. Right. Okay, it's okay. It's quite a long interview here with this chap actually, Zyder. Um, Game developers should be thinking about games that understand our emotions and designing artificial intelligence characters with software so they can interact with real players based on their emotional state. I think well, you probably get the idea. I suppose the idea is that if the way my avatar behaves indicates that I'm in a bad mood, then there will be an AI avatar that comes along and either tries to cheer me up or kicks me out of the game. I'm not sure which. But apparently it will understand if I'm in a bad mood because my avatar's behavior will have, I don't know, gestures or something that betrays that bad mood. Equally, if I'm in a happy mood, everybody will congregate around me and I can play Pied Piper. Who knows? Who knows? But anyway, yes, the wolves themselves will sense our emotions, and they're well, they're even mentioning characters from novels or stories that could become interactive, and we would be able to talk with them using AI. For example, playing with someone might play Hamlet and somebody else might play other characters, but they'd be augmented by I don't know, some AI based on what's known as the characters literary. I don't know. The basically it's a wide open world. This, the sort of stuff we're covering now. We just don't know what the future will hold in 20 years' time. Um, our it may not be a single avatar that's important to us. It may be some kind of morphing avatar that takes on uh, different personas or whatever, depending on where they are. Whether you're exploring worlds or whether you're being taught or learning something. I really don't know. But this is a long interview, so um, do check that out. Spectrum.ieee.org is where you want to go there. And again, that was on October 29th, that report. All right, moving to road2vr.com. That's road to VR using the letters VR at the end.com. All one word, by the way, road to VR. And virtual reality web browser super medium no longer in active developments. Right. I think there is another post from this site here this week as well. I didn't really know about this, although I knew that such things existed. It's just the name super medium didn't sort of click with me at all. But apparently, this was a native virtual reality browser that lets you interact with web-based VR content. I rather suspect that something like Mozilla's browser and Mozilla Hubs as destinations, although have actually sort of taken on this function. I mean, but I do know if you put on Oculus Go or something like that, one of the apps you can download is an actual web browser and is simply formatted to appear in 3D space as a sort of curved screen, and obviously it works a treat. It presumably works a treat if you get to a 3D website, a Mozilla Hub type thing. This apparently is a super medium. I've called it a day because it's no longer in active development. It's been effectively being put on ice in search of something that consumers might use on a daily basis. So presumably nobody wanted to use it, so it's gone. So that's all there is to that article, really. It's gone. Right. Variety.com. This is the sort of showbiz site, variety.com. And where are we? October 27th. I said we were going backwards here, didn't I? Virtual reality grows in sophistication, but fees remain a challenge. VR section chief says. Right, so this is quoted from somebody and got a bit of information. Um, the people here, right, a variety talking about VR are very much talking about the sort of 360 video type VR, although it may include, storing elements, but like film. They are not remotely interested in social virtual worlds, put it that way. They're interested in things that resemble a sort of future for cinema, storytelling, film, 360 video, or whatever. Um, and to be honest, this is really just looking at the finance behind it. The fees for people working in the field, and the budgets for the actual programs. Having a quick scroll down there, it's all text, so there's not much to show you except for a picture at the top, which I don't know what the hell it is. Anyway, go to variety.com and go back to the 20. What did I say? It was 20. Yeah, 27th of October, and it's in their film festivals kind of section, as it were. Okay, moving on again. We're back. Yes, this is actually a more formal report. This is from Reuters, news agency, Reuters.com, Reuters.com. And it's another report about Hong Kong students taking their protest to the virtual world. Um, Virtual reality game, they hope, will allow people to experience the anti government demonstrations from the point of view of a frontline protester. Yes. So you too, oh, it sounds like one of those corny ads. You too will believe a man can fly. No, sorry, you too can become a frontline protester. Yes. Best of luck there. Right. You don't naturally need to go to Hong Kong to do that either. Even in the UK here, you can protest about the environment or about the Boris or anything else you want, really. Plenty to protest about these days, quite frankly. But I won't go there right now. It's called the Rabbit Hole Department. Okay. As I said, Reuters.com is that article. You'll have to search around for it if you're not following my link because it's a very long URL if you want to do it that way. Okay, we're back to Yahoo Finance, believe it or not. So finance.yahoo.com. And a company called Brain Cave have launched an enterprise collaboration VR platform. So this is all collaborative. So it's a bit like a social virtual world, except it's not really meant to be social. It's meant to be for the enterprise. And of course, we all know that there is no such thing as the enterprise and social. The two can, the two can never be. They're miles apart, aren't they? With a possible exception of the water cooler. But anyway, it's this comes from PR Newswire, in fact. What did they tell me? Brain Cave is a technology innovation lab of expert consultants incorporated. Talk of the egos here, who forms a company called Expert Consultants Incorporated? They've obviously got a high opinion of themselves, haven't they? Um, and it's a that's a stupid company name, really.
Mhm.
All it says is they're an expert consultants anyway. It doesn't say what they consult on or anything like that. Anyhow, go figure. Brainwave is apparently part of that um, company. Um, it's founded as a technology lab from Expert Consultants Incorporated and provides an open and collaborative environment to study and interact with a variety of disruptive technologies to anticipate new growth opportunities for all businesses. There you go. That's all I'm saying. Check out financeyahoo.com for that one. And the final one before I actually have to start loading more tabs. This is actually the Daily Iowan. Right, in other words, it comes from Iowa. Um, Dailyowan. And they've got this little report. It's a newspaper of the University of Iowa, apparently, the magazine. And they're talking about advanced virtuality technology helping user interface scientists study pedestrian behavior. I don't know, this one's a new one on me, quite curious. It sounds like the sort of Microsoft will get up to be honest. Yeah, but apparently they're actually examining the way pedestrians behave. Um, I don't know quite how they will, put this all together. You've got an obligatory picture of them in labs and stuff like that with a headset, and they're in virtual environments. Um, and all it says is they're examining pedestrian behaviour. I don't know what they're actually going to do with this. I must say that this can be my brief rabbit hole moment for the week. I um, I hate to blow this, but we're talking about a book that I think came out in the early '60s, if not earlier. I think the author was John Brunner, science fiction author, and it was called Squares of the City. Now, it was oddly enough quite a short. You picked it up, looked like a regular paperback novel, which was in smallish print in those days. It looked like regular one, but in fact, the novel finished halfway through. Well, halfway through the book, that is, because the second half of the book retold the entire novel through a chess game, a series of moves on a chessboard. And you obviously, if you know chess, you would be able to follow the second half of the book because it's a retelling of the events, but as dictated by moves on a chessboard. And the I don't want to spoil it, but it is old now. The clincher here really was two people in the future were actually running a city, as it were, and they were just playing a chess game with each other. And everything that happened in the story, which is quite a thrilling adventure, was actually all happening because of various moves on this chessboard that these, two sort of city gods were doing. And but the interesting thing was the protagonist in the novel was introduced to us early on as a traffic inspector, or I think it was inspector or navigator or something. But this was like no traffic inspector you'd ever heard of. I mean, the guy was actually working with maps and I guess some kind of technology. I forget the details. But they had pavements for pedestrians and routes for a limited number of cars and things. And every day, the direction of travel for pedestrians and cars and stuff was being shuffled at every given moment. Where there was a jam, they would open up new avenues. And it was all sort of, you could see their job was plotting it all out on a map and switching routes off and putting other routes on, and basically they were it was they were it was basically treating humans and our vehicles and everything else as sort of just objects, names in this city, and the whole thing was being made to run like a kind of machine. And a few things start going wrong, and eventually the protagonist starts snooping around where he's not meant to, and eventually uncovers the whole corruption and mechanisms of the city until he ends up at the top and finds a couple of old guys playing a game of chess. It was something like that, but it's so long since I've read it. But when I think of virtuality and the premise of this article, examining pedestrians' behaviour, I suddenly thought of that novel because I thought, well, if you can map a whole city in virtuality and then map all the people in it and all the objects, especially motor cars and things in it, and you can imagine somebody sitting around on a screen somewhere, literally playing The Sims, but with a real city. Uh, so who knows, what some occupations will evolve in the future and whether they can be trusted to do their jobs for that matter. Anyway, moving on before I get totally stuck in the rabbit hole. And it's just going to take me a second here while I'm actually going to start loading new tabs and I'm going to go the other way. So the first tab I'm opening now is quite literally one that's showing up as an hour ago, but I think that's an hour before we came on air. Right. Yeah, here we are. Right. Um, oh yeah, but this is Television Business International, so it's TBI Vision, TBIVISION.com. And I mean, it's quite true because we always talk about virtuality and virtual worlds as augmentation, right? Although some people see them as escapism or something utterly removed from real life. But they are making a point. There's absolutely nothing virtual about the potential of virtual reality. Again, they are looking at the potential of virtuality in general, but it's not, potential to escape or be in another place or whatever. It's, augmenting what we do. Um, now, again, this is more moving into producer film territory. Um, it's an Australian production firm called White Spark Pictures, and their main guy explains how virtual reality programming can be both impactful and profitable for producers. Um, there is a box office hit in America, sorry, in Australia, sorry, called the Antarctica Experience, and hmm, I'm just trying to. It must include a VR experience here. There's sorry, they've wound this up with. I posted last week. The BBC here in the UK had closed their VR hub. Not totally abandoning VR projects, but their main VR hub. And this film begins a rollout in an international rollout shortly. New Zealand, Argentina, moving on. Um, okay. Well, I haven't got time to read out this whole article, and it doesn't seem to really include any details about any way in which this film is actually immersive VR, unless, as is, oh, it goes into quite a lot. Will VR and TV ever meet? It was quite, yeah. I don't. I just, I think it's a theoretical article and kind of futurist sort of thing without actually telling us what, in particular, the case of Antarctica, what the particular link with VR is. But there are an increasing number. There aren't that many yet, other than things like, is it no, the Lion King, for example, where what they basically say is they built a whole game world or virtual, reality world for themselves, and then they sent their cameramen in to film the movie. And they, of course, they had a massive budget, and the world and everything else was done with custom software. But it's actually not that different from machinima. Machinima is a modern art form. Sometimes it's done offline on computers with sort of animation software where you create the characters and set up the stage and get them to move and make a sort of cartoony movie. But more often, and far more effectively, it's actually done like real cinema, but done in a virtual environment. So you log into OpenSim or Second Life, you call around your friends to see if anybody's got any acting abilities, and you say, I've got this idea for a story, and we want to act it out and make it into a film, which will be machinima. And at the moment, there's been some wonderful machinima done in both OpenSim and Second Life, and a few other places too, using the living world side of it. But as the Lion King proved, and as this sort of thing proves, it may be that future movies will be made literally in VR. Rather than sort of live action with traditional live action with special effects. But you can get a mix of the whole thing. There's probably things special effects can do that you can't do even in VR. Um, although there's certainly things you can do in VR you can't do in real life. So go figure. If what comes out of it is a decent story and decent media, then fine, I think. They ask if TV and VR will ever meet, which is interesting. But again, they're talking from an industry perspective here. So if you want any revelations about, gosh, that's a good idea, I'll go off and do it, you won't get it from this. You're really getting, people talking about where things seem to be going. Okay, so next one. This is another one I posted earlier today. Um, VR Days Europe. This is a sort of conference, come expo. It's on November 14th and 15th. It's basically centered in Amsterdam. And the link here I've given is to the program highlights. A load of stuff happening there. And they're on the actual website here. You've got a whole lot. You've got matchmaking program. You've got a list of speakers, for example. Here are all the speakers. Um, some major people there, and in past years, the likes of Philip Rosedale have been speaking there as well. I don't think he's on this year's list, but there's I'm scrolling away here, gawking at all the faces. There's a lot of people doing presentations at this thing, so if you're anywhere near Amsterdam, I suspect it's just definitely a worthy stopover if you're not planning to go already. But anyway, that's it. What, 13th, 14th? That would be in nearly just short of 2 weeks' time, isn't it? 13th, 14th, and 15th of November, 2019 in Amsterdam. And let me see. I'll just be here. We are. Okay. Contact information, general inquiries, info@vrdays.co. So that's info, obviously, at symbol VRDays, VRDAYS.co. If you want more about that. Okay. Putting that one away. Well, I will when I've got another one open. France24.com. France, as in the country, 24 in numerals, 24.com. And they're talking about virtual reality as a game changing revolution in esports. And I guess esports are electronic anyway, so virtuality will come into it. Encased in headsets carrying electronic replicas of weapons in their hands, the players prowl around the arena, ducking behind virtual obstacles before emerging to shoot at the enemy. Well, Paris Games Week. This is, I mean, that is so obvious, isn't it? Of the gamer world. Um, Apparently, Smart VR Studios installed an immense arena at the Games Suite to actually hold the first virtual reality competition using a popular game called After H. Um, and industry participants agree that such groundbreaking VR technology is going to be crucial to the future of esports, although it remains unclear how radical the revolution will be and whether it will actually change the future of esports for good, etc., etc. Um, Esports, I mean, I think it's a very general sort of thing. This is sort of referring to like out of home type VR. They build a giant arena and they kit people out in VR kits, and they play against themselves in this big arena VR. Hopefully, there are no casualties. In other words, presumably they're holding a virtual sword, not a real sword. Nobody gets their real head chopped off at the same time as their virtual one. Obviously this sort of thing can develop, but also the esports thing can be. It doesn't have to be an out-of-home activity as resolutions and the power of many of these game technologies improves. There's nothing to say that you as an individual can't partake in an esport just on a 2D screen even. Um, it's hard to know really where the game becomes a sport or sport only is a game. There's obviously a great deal of overlap just take the traditional concept of a game. Um, Chess was never really considered to be a sport, though arguably some people will say it is. Whereas football was it's often called the game, but it's definitely a sport, if you see what I mean. Um, so, um, different things fall into different categories. There's now a very definite overlap there too. And just like with traditional sport, it is very much the same with esports. We can't be sure what in the future is going to get branded as an esport as opposed to anything else. Anyway, moving on. Um, where was it? France24.com is where we were there. So FRANCE and then a 2 and a 4 .com. Um, right. SiliconRepublic.com is a new one on us. Silicon as in Silicon Valley and Republic as in the American political party that um, uh, actually, I don't know. The colours are the opposite way around from ours in the UK, so I'm not going to say anything else. So, right, Silicon Republic. I'm sure you can put that together. 5 days ago, VR technology. Oh God, go away, go away. No, I don't want to sign. It really wants me to sign up for that one, doesn't it? Right, VR technology apprenticeship for women open for applications. A new women-only apprenticeship is seeking to challenge the idea that working in tech is the preserve of the privileged. In other words, the preserve of men, presumably. Right, a women-only technology apprenticeship has been launched by the Irish immersive tech company Vray and national apprenticeships provider FIT. Um, they were finalists in this year's Google Impact Challenge, and they're now taking applications open to all women over the age of 18 who've passed their leaving certificate. Successful participants will be employed by a company for the duration of the program, benefiting from on-the-job learning. And yeah, well, this is job opportunity um, section, really, isn't it? But always good to see that something is really encouraging, but more women in the field, which is probably why I picked up on that one in the first place. So siliconrepublic.com has that article, and obviously you can see we're coming back to our um, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to move. So I'm just going to close some tabs. So I'm going to leave us on a start page here for a second. Right. Oh, we've got a link here that definitely should not be in the stream. Right. Okay. Moving on. VRFocus.com again. Pimax, or PMAX, so we pronounce it PIMAX, begins a pre-order campaign for Vision 8K headsets. Yes, 4K is just not enough. VRFocus.com, as I said, and what's the date? November 1st. So this is just a day or so ago. Um, if you're looking for a really wide field of view, field of FOV, choice is very limited. In fact, there's only really one on the market, and that's PMAX. They previously released 5K Plus and 5K OLED and 8K head-mounted displays with a 200-degree field of view. The company is now preparing to launch its next generation, two devices called Vision 8KX and Vision 8K Plus. No sign of a Vision 8K with nothing on the end, but there you go. They like making up names like this, don't they? So yeah, another headset's about to hit the market. It's not on the market yet, but it is coming. It looks like you will need 450 US dollars to 650 US dollars, depending on which model you actually want. But definitely what sounds like a first. It may not be, to be honest. I don't follow this as carefully as I should, but it sounds like it's been promoted as a first for 8K resolution, basically. Which, what that? If you want to watch the cinema on an IMAX style in a headset, just let it be known that there's no such thing as an 8K movie yet. I mean, the best movie you're going to get is 4K, and there aren't that many of them around to stream either. But they don't care about that. They just want to up your Ks. We'll have 16K, 32K, 64K. It goes up like sort of bit depth, you know. um, there will be a point where the human eye won't be able to tell them apart for sure. Okay, let's move on down the list. We are nearing our end here, I think. Um, all right, this one was quite interesting. Different thing entirely. This link goes to arvrjourney.com. So arvrjourney.com. And if you're into art, or actually just popular culture in general, you may know of Norman Rockwell. I'm quite a big fan of Norman Rockwell,
Hmm.
actually. And basically, the reviewer here, David Deal, he recently stepped inside the paintings of Norman Rockwell through virtual reality. He viewed Four Freedoms paintings at the Henry Ford near in Michigan, basically. That's a real world place, by the way. He experienced them in an immersive way that only VR could provide. The virtual reality experience demonstrates how VR can educate by complementing, not replacing, the physical world, but only if VR offers compelling content. And then they give you a little bit of a review of the Four Freedoms. This is something I would like to see available as an app, but I think it might just be an installation at the moment. But always interested in the convergence of good old art. Yes, art. Um, with oh, come on, my tabs are playing silly buggers. Right. You didn't want to see that one. Right, okay. I need to keep each tab open while I load the next so we get completely mixed up. Okay, now this is interesting again. You hear about Mozilla hubs and all that stuff. Basically, Google updated their Chrome web browser this week and it is now fully ready for web-based virtuality. So you don't need a Mozilla browser like Firefox or whatever to access 3D worlds that are on the web. You can use Chrome. And if you can use Chrome, you will almost certainly know that that means you can use Opera or Microsoft's Edge, both of which are actually variations of the Chrome engine. So it certainly widens your browser choice when if you want to actually go to VR, 3D. websites. Um, VR systems are getting more advanced, primarily still available on niche hardware and software, but it will change with browsers supporting web-based VR, etc., etc. And they're pushing Chrome there. And you can even click on the link to download the beta of Chrome, or the main Chrome browser update will be on December 10th, which is probably 5 weeks away, yes, or something. But it's coming, and you can get the beta now if you want it. That post is at engadget.com. So you want engadget.com. And that's a fairly recent post when I can't oh yeah, 01, yeah, 1st of November. Yeah, so if you want the links and everything else to click on, you can go to that. And as I say, you can always get it on my Twitter feed too. Right, also in the UK, we've got this is a site called Business Alive Company UK. So business-live.co.uk. And it's technology, obviously. Yeah, obviously, it's technology. Inside a Liverpool firm, that's Liverpool up in England, of course, where the Beatles come from, actually. There's a firm up there called V Time. They're a tech business behind the world's first cross reality social network. Um, VTime itself has been around quite a while. I think I went and looked at this as a possible sort of virtual environment some time ago, and wasn't overly impressed. But this one looks good. I mean, I think I can't swear to this. On the Edge is a V-time scenario featuring views of the Grand Canyon. I think you've got to think of this in terms of like Second Life or OpenSim. You know, four avatars are meeting and they are sitting chatting to each other just like they would in any virtual world. But this particular virtual world features real locations. So it's the emphasis is on mixed reality. You've got the virtual bit and, and the reality bit. I certainly hope that's the case because I get vertigo. I would not want to be sitting there. I would not want to be having to climb the bloody place to sit there either. Yeah, I wouldn't like to fall off that. I know avatars just land and bounce, but you know. Some of them don't bounce. Here we are, perched on the Grand Canyon's highest peak, staring at the rocky abyss, a long overdue catch up with a friend, or in holding an important business meeting in a suspended 100 metres over the River Mersey, which of course is Liverpool's river, or chatting to a family while set outside an igloo in the middle of freezing Antarctica. Oh no, this is not some kind of weird dream, they say. It's actually the day to day reality of hundreds of thousands of users of the virtual and augmented reality VR/AR world created by Liverpool based V Time. So, hundreds of thousands of users day to day. Mm, there could be a bit of artistic license on that one. I think we'd have heard of it if it really had that many. But anyway, it looks rather interesting, and I think this is actually something I might endeavour to look at more closely at some point. Anyway, to find out this article, anyway, just go to business-live.co.uk. And I think Google search for V Time will do it too. To the actual product. Small V, capital T, and then small I-M-E. Yep, he says. He says. Moving on again. We are nearly there. I know we're nearly there because I recognise one coming up as done. Right. Back to our old friends at hypergridbusiness.com. Hypergridbusiness.com with the big logo. It can't fit in the width. Right. Profs being. God. Who writes the headlines for Maria? This is Alex Kovalov. I lived in Embassy's brother. Profs bring Hamlet into AR. That headline just doesn't sound right to me. Anyway, I think they mean profs. Yeah, English professors. So actually, it should say professors, but it sounds weird saying profs. Okay. If you think of university level English education, an AR game might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but we've got cell phones, blah, blah, blah. And uh, virtual reality could be used in college humanities courses sooner rather than later. And New York Institution of Technology English professors, that's hence the profs, already doing that. And they talked to Hypergrid Business about it, including they've got an AR Hamlet mystery, which gives students a more in-depth experience of Shakespeare's Hamlet, whilst also enhancing their comprehension and retention. I've got to admit, for anybody who's ever been made to sit down and try and study Hamlet,
Mm.
retention
Mm-hmm.
might come in very useful because I I had zero retention with what you might call enforced Shakespeare, though I did later on my own develop a way of coping with him. Right, I was able to create a model and put that model into AR and onto a PC. The students could test out where they got to walk around the castle where Hamlet meets his ghost father, and etc. 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 So again, nothing really new here. Obviously, using Shakespeare. Oh, there's some videos you can click on and play. In fact, there's quite a lot to this article, to be honest. Um, but of course, Hypergrid Business normally does do fairly grandiose um, text-heavy articles. We're illustrated. Um, you can go to Second Life, OpenSim, and possibly every virtual world, social virtual world around, and there will be a Shakespeare build somewhere, if not many. Some of them are recreations, the Virtual Globe Theatre, for example, which I think that's well, Second Life or OpenSim, I forget which. You've got Tutankhamun's tomb, which is just opened in Britain, by the way. But people are moaning it costs £60 to get in.
Mm.
But apparently, it's going to be the last ever exhibition of the Tutankhamun tomb. I think it's to do with preservation or something. It will never go on tour again. So if you're in Britain, this is the last time you'll get to it. But High Fidelity had a kind of Tutankhamun kind of recreation thing that they made a fuss about for a while. There are endless medieval kind of builds in places like Second Life. Some of them are role play, but others are actually educational. The same with there's one somewhere which is ancient Rome, and they've got avatars role playing every single inhabitant, not census wise, but some are slaves, some are cleaners, you working under the floors and the heating systems, so that you can go in there and learn about technology and the method of building ancient Rome that just no longer exists. Um, there's very few places left in the world. I think in Bath, the spa down West Country, England, I think still has underheated, underfloor heating, done the way the Romans did it. But it's old technology has been replaced by less than energy efficient methods. We'll have to bring back steam heating for underfloor and coal for underfloor heating because we haven't got the reserves of electricity. We
Mm.
need it. Never mind. Never mind. Rabbit holing. Forget it. Anyway, do follow that at hypergridbusiness.com. That's the Shakespeare's Hamlet one. And a mixture of augmented reality and VR. And then the final post in this feed. Oh, maybe rather funny. I can now close all the other ones behind us at least. Right. From Alexa to hopefully she didn't hear. Right. From Madam A, as I call her, to virtuality, these tech tools can make aging in place easier. This is another one looking at aging. This is it's actually US Today, but it's I don't know whether there's any difference, but this is actually the European edition. So the address I've got here is eu.usatoday.com. And yeah, 1st of November, just a couple of days ago. Um, this isn't particularly virtual reality, even though it mentions in the title. It's just that's just one aspect of things that might make life easier for living as people grow a bit older. Um, uh, they obviously feature Amazon's Lady A, who you can command to do various things. They don't mention the Google equivalent, which is probably a bit better at lots of things. Um, it's not kids tech anymore, and why it's important. And yeah, actually, I thought that was a man at first, but I think there's an age where you just can't tell. That's actually a 95-year-old woman who describes herself as an early tech adopter because she loves to use gadgets to remain connected to friends and family. Um, but you get the idea. That's what the article here really is about, a kind of overview um, of that. So I'm quickly doing a little bit of other misbehavior, but what the heck? Oh, I see. Right. Um, oh, I know what happened. Right. I'm just switching to my Metaworld news feed where we do have a few other things. All I can see here is there was another hypergrid post, business post on get ready for Halloween. That is now gone. At least it better be. So I'm not going to point you to that one. Okay. Mozilla VR, blog.mozvr, mozvr.com. We seem to get one of these a week now at the moment. This is talking about Spoke. Spoke is an architecture kit, a 3D editor basically, that they've released for creating environments for use in hubs. I think it was last week we spoke about hubs, or the week before. I certainly know that Avacon somebody from Avacon went in and created one. I think that was 2 weeks ago because we looked at it, didn't we, James, last week? Um, anyway, Spoke is a compositing tool for mixing 2D and 3D content to create immersive spaces. And um, yeah, uh, today we're excited to share it. Yes, 29th of October. So there's a link there so you can go get it. And then there's this isn't a video, that's just a screenshot, but it does point to a video that they've got up on Vimeo, and they're plugging the fact that hubs run across mobile, desktop, and VR devices, but they're all delivered regardless through the browser, and taking the browser performance is their main consideration. Components of the architecture kit were created in Blender so that each piece would align together to create seamless connections by avoiding mesh overlap, which is a common challenge. Um, um, Fighting between faces, that's object faces, becomes less of a problem. Um, Many of the pieces have been made single-sided to reduce the number of faces that need to be rendered, blah, blah, blah. That's an example of something built and rendered with the kit. The same again here, which still look pretty reasonable. I mean, if you imagine somewhere like OpenSim or Second Life, most people building a kitchen or something there would actually come up start, with something like this anyway. The more exotic look that we're used to is when they start putting things on the tables, bowls of fruits and stuff like that, and actually embellish the room. So a schematic like that is, pretty adequate. Generally speaking, and I presume you can embellish it if you want to. So anyway, check out that if you're interested in building for Mozilla hubs. I some of these composing things. I can't tell you about this at all, but I do note that some of the kits that allow you to build for specific things on the web or specific platforms. They often have connections with things like Blender or Unity or something like that. And you aren't, if you fiddle around, you may be able to find you can actually use these kits for authoring for completely different places. In other words, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if you got an API for something like this and found you could also something that could be put into Mozilla Hubs, but could equally be put into OpenSim or High Fidelity or something. So always worth going to fiddle, um, even if some of us are probably past our prime in that department these days. Right. Okay, hypergrid business again. This one is quite important for those. By the way, all these links now are in twitter.com/metaworld news. I should have reiterated that. There's a new OpenSim release with a new script engine and including animated mesh. It's Open Simulator 0.9.1.0, and its code name is Snail. I hope that is not referring to the speed of performance. Who on earth codenamed his snail? Um, no comment. No comment on that one. Anyway, it supports animated mesh, Y engine, script engine, fixes a few bugs, and according to core developer Ubit, it's also the first release to have a name, not just a number. They've got to be having a laugh. Anyway, Austin Tate, in his commentary, said this is a great milestone. He's director of artificial intelligence applications at the University of Edinburgh. I believe this release is very stable and has been under extensive testing. According to Tate's AI Austin and World, the new release has been tested on OS Grid and several other grids, as well as OpenView and Aliland OpenSync grid that Tate himself runs. To get more details about the new release, there is a link there. It makes a point that it is not yet included in the Diva distro version of OpenSim, and I would speculate also that it was probably not um, included in the one I use. I can't remember what it's called now.
Outworlds.
Thirds. Yeah, thirds outworlds. He agrees. Yeah, it takes time. It's only out released a couple of days ago. When things like uh, um, Outworlds and whatever, they do require some customization because the idea is to make it available to the public and set it up in an easy way. So they've got to convert the raw code into something that is a bit more usable to the general user. But I'm sure those platforms will be have it there soon.
You're actually
Um,
sitting on a version 9.1 grid, so
what this particular one?
yeah,
9.1. Oh, right.
yeah.
Okay.
OSCC grid is was upgraded.
Right. So that was this week.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Also, right. So I was going to ask you about that privately earlier, but never mind. Never mind. So good point. According to OpenSim, Ubit developer, Y-Engine was developed and used by Dream Nation and the Avanation Grid, which is based on XMR Engine. This is tech for those of you who want it. It's modified to work on both normal .NET and Mono environments, unlike the original. It does solve several problems of X Engine, like the I sleep issues, wrong LSL passing, and so on. So I'm not going to go into any more of that. You can check out the fairly word heavy article at Hypergrid Business here to October 29th. So I forget when that was. I think it's about Wednesday that this came out. And as James has just pointed out, if you are coming to the OpenSync Community Conference this year, which of course is second weekend in December, if I recall,
Hmm.
which is where we are sitting now. By the way, we decided to use the staff room here to talk to you today. It does seem to be performing fine, and they are actually one of the grids that actually updated this week to that version. So yes, for once, the Open Community Convention are on the leading edge, aren't they?
Hmm.
This time last year, they were still back on version 8. No, no, not even the earlier versions of 9 or oh 09 or whatever. Anyway, right. Moving on. Right. We're about it. There is blog.i blog.inf.ed.ac.uk. This is Austin Tate's blog, and he was mentioned in the previous article, but he has his own review of it, as it were. He was quoted in the other article, but there's more you can get from him. A bit of a long link again, but never mind. Um, 6 days ago, uploadvr.com. Oh yeah, are we really interested? Facebook a while back, or a few weeks ago, launched their Horizon project, which is like their virtual spaces for Facebook users and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, coincidentally, this week they actually shut down Facebook Spaces to quite literally make way for the new Facebook Horizon. So if you've been one of these people convinced to go into Facebook Spaces over the last year or so, you can now forget it. It's going away, and you've got to start all over again in Horizon. Do you really want to? Come on, come on. High fidelity, science space, open sim, even Second Life. You do not have to go to Horizon, even if you have got a Facebook account. You don't want to monopolize your 3D self too. Please, please. Okay, so we mentioned that. We mentioned that because we have to really. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned this last week. If I didn't, it's in Hypergrid Business too, October 27th, in fact. Um, the hypergrid, which is the system that connects all the open sim worlds together, it's a bit like having hundreds of thousands of second lives all joined together instead of being behind a walled garden. Well, the hypergrid is now 11 years old. Yeah, not open sim, certainly not second life. The hypergrid itself, which connects open simulators together and makes the world immensely huge. That is 11 years old. Hard to believe that
Hmm.
it's now a year over a decade old, or any other interpretation you put on it. Right. Okay. So let me just flip away these things, which is I think all we needed. And yep, I think to all intents and purposes that's it for this week. Or we will be here all day, even without a rabbit hole session. Um, yeah, we've been on for well, we did have a little interruption earlier
Hmm.
on, but it's probably been here for about an hour. Um, I've got a few odds and ends on the other side of my screen here. They're not linked in to anything else. Monday, October 28th. Is that since last week? Yes, it is, isn't it? Right, okay. Um, this a new issue of what is a relatively new magazine anyway. This is the November edition of it's a flipbook style publication at Issue. It's called Hypergrid Zone magazine. It's produced from DigiWorlds, and there's a bit of a heavy emphasis on DigiWorlds there, but it is exploring all of OpenSim and the Hypergrid. You need to read this, you need to go to issue.com, which is ISSW, two U's that is, not W. So ISSW.com, and the username you need to look for is Orb Emerald. So first name is Orb, ORB, and the second name is Emerald, EMERALD. It's easier to give it you that way than to attempt to give you the whole hyperlink. There is an awful lot of product at issue as well. So you can, of course, go to Metaworld News at Twitter and click on the link, um, which may be your best bet. It's very difficult to actually go, to uh, the site and find anything, um, just because you got a vague idea there's a magazine there. Um, you won't be able to read this at this size. There's a lovely little button here that turns it full screen, which in my case is about 20 times as big as what I'm broadcasting. But just give you a rough flip through so you can see visually. There's quite a little bit in the magazine there, so it's probably worth going along and getting. Not quite as big and thick and fancy as some. The fact that this is available on the web and through issue actually is a plus point in my opinion, because Sunbeam Magic used to have one. Oh, God, I've forgotten what it was called already, but she only ever did it in World, and that was a deliberate choice to make it an open sim magazine. But I think if you're going to go to all the trouble of laying out and stuff, a proper magazine, then you know you really want it on the web. I would actually prefer this looked more like an actual magazine, um, because it's two columns, not three. heavy on illustration, but the type is quite big. It's sort of it reminds me of a children's book layout rather than proper magazine. But anyway, there it is. So well worth checking that out while we're at it. Um, what else have I got? Oh yeah, the over on YouTube, you can look for OR, AWE, the OR conference, which is Augmented Worlds Expo EU. There's 29 interview compilation up there. Um, what else have we got? No, that's the earlier weeks. Yeah, something from Tuesday, posted by Upload VR. In fact, Microsoft VR research budget cuts, date, and Borderlands 2 VR giveaway. They actually have a show called VR Recap, which covers the whole week every Tuesday, and so that was their latest one. So if you want to follow that, just go to YouTube and look up um, upload VR. That's upload the full word and then VR the letters, and that's where you'll find it on their account. So, um, yep, nothing else there. I think we're done is done, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we better be. Yeah, I think we're done. So, James, any thoughts on that mammoth exercising clickery,
Hmm.
clickery fiddly?
Lots of thoughts, but I don't think I have any further comment. No.
Right. Yeah, it's a handful. I mean, you tend to forget what the first items were as well. I mean, it's only when I'm reading these out and recalling half of them I think, oh God, of course, lots of different things to keep in one's head all at
Yeah.
once.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now, also as a plus point, since we're actually in, well, this is the OSCC grid, not Avacons, but I noticed you and others were filming the Virtual Ability Conference, the Second Life,
Mm-hmm.
for under the Avacon brand, as it were. Although I think that it was posted on Virtuality's channel. I presume they're doing what Avacon does, and that is they're going to put the recordings up for replay at some point.
Right. Yep. That's in
I,
process.
right. Um, yeah, unlike me, who puts them up for replay immediately. The those take time, but I guess it's probably just Virtual Ability, the YouTube channel. I can't remember for sure,
Yep.
but they'll be in one of my feeds when they appear anyway. So you know, whatever. Okay, well, I think on that note, we can say goodbye to everybody. When I say we, I mean, of course, he. Yeah,
Oh,
it's goodbye from him. It's goodbye from him. It is.
and goodbye from him. Goodbye from here as well.
Yes. So from the two of us, until next week, same time, possibly the same place, probably not, possibly. Who
We're on the
knows?
run.
Right? Same time anyway, same channel, etc. The new touring version of Metaworld News. Where will we be? Where will our gig be next week? Who knows? Who knows? But be somewhere in a virtual world. I can guarantee that.
Hmm.
No more, not the old webcam calls. Okay, thanks for watching. We will see you then. Have a good week. Bye bye.